Howdy, wonderful people. I am BuddhaCat. Almost every day I get the same question. BuddhaCat, how do you stream? Or maybe, BuddhaCat, can you do a video about streaming and recording with OBS? Normally what I do is send people over to my gaming crew's website, which is astromechgaming.com, where there are several amazing videos on OBS and Nightbot. Sometimes I'll even take some screenshots of my OBS setup and do my best to type out an explanation on how to use it. However, I'm still getting questions, so I have decided, after months of putting it off, to record my very own BuddhaCat's Guide to Streaming 101. Before we get any further into this, I must say a small disclaimer. So, before your itchy fingers get typing stuff in the comments, please hear me out. I am in no way, shape, or form a professional at OBS or OBS Studio. That being said, I have been using OBS Classic and OBS Studio for about 2 years. I am not going to be covering XSplit or any other streaming software in this guide. Why? Because I know nothing about XSplit or any other streaming software out there. I'm not saying OBS Studio is better than any other software out there, but I will say that OBS Studio is free and open source. What does open source mean? It means the original source code of the software is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. I am also going to be focusing more on streaming on YouTube. However, these same things said in this guide can be applied to those who stream on Twitch. I will not be covering Beam or Periscope, as I know nothing about those streaming platforms. Also, I am in no way, shape, or form a computer expert. The things said in this tutorial are to help beginner streamers and content creators stream and record videos using OBS Studio. In the description, there are many links to help you. Some of the links we will be using in this video, and other links are there to help you in your own time. Okay, without further ado, let's get started with BuddhaCat's Guide to Streaming 101. First, let's go to obsproject.com to download OBS Studio for free. Click the big green download button to start the download. Below it, you will see in tiny letters a way to download OBS Classic if you want, but I highly discourage you guys from getting it. Some people prefer it, but for first-time streamers especially, I suggest sticking with OBS Studio. Once you're done downloading and extracting OBS Studio, you'll most likely see a screen like this. It can be a bit discouraging to first-time users because, well, there isn't a lot going on. So let's fix that. But before we get into the fun stuff like scenes and sources, we need to set up and configure our OBS for streaming. In the top left corner, you'll see File, Edit, View, etc. Go on and click Profile and New. This may seem silly to do now, but in the future, you may want several different profiles and scene collections, especially if you're streaming on multiple platforms or using OBS for both streaming and recording. We're going to set up a profile and scene collection for streaming on YouTube. So let's name this profile YouTube Streaming. Now let's click on Scene Collection, then New, and let's name this one YouTube Streaming 1. Awesome sauce! Now click on File and Settings. First things first, if you want to make your OBS a little less blinding and obnoxiously white, where it says Theme, click Dark. You may prefer the white, but I know a lot of streamers like myself choose the dark theme because it's a lot less distracting and not so hard on the eyes. You don't need to change much under General. It's really up to you and your preferences, so you can just leave everything as it is for now. Hit apply down below and move on to the stream panel. So go ahead and click on the stream icon. And this is the part that is super important for 2 reasons. First being, this is how OBS actually connects and communicates to your YouTube or Twitch channel. Second, if anyone gets your stream key, they'll be able to connect and communicate with your YouTube or Twitch channel. So please pay close attention in this next part. Under stream type, leave it as streaming services. Then on the service drop-down menu, choose YouTube/YouTube Gaming. Unless, of course, you're setting this up for Twitch, in which case you'd obviously choose Twitch. Leave server as primary YouTube ingest server. For Twitch users, select the nearest server to you. Now head over to YouTube. In the top right hand corner, click on your icon and then click Creator Studio. From there, select live streaming on the left. Now scroll down to where it says Encoder Setup. Simply hit Reveal, then copy the entire stream key and paste it where it says Stream Key in OBS Studio. Okay, are you paying attention? Because this is the part that's super important. Keep this information private. Do not ever expose this information during a stream or give it out to anyone. If you feel like the stream key may be compromised, then simply hit reveal, then reset. You should reset your stream key regularly anyway. I normally do it after every stream or at the very least once a week, but I'm just paranoid. For Twitch users, you can find your stream key by going to your dashboard, then selecting settings, then stream key. All right, let's move on to the output settings. This is where it can get a little tricky and may require some trial and error. Before we even get into this next part, please note that in general, there is really no perfect way to find the best settings for your system other than through experimentation. However, we're going to perform the following steps to get a general idea of where to start for your settings. For first-time streamers, leave the output mode as simple. The video bitrate is where it gets a little complicated. First, let's see what we're working with in terms of upload bandwidth. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I highly recommend performing the following tests. Down below in the description is a link to an upload speed test. Let's head over there so we can test it out. Note, before testing your upload speed, you should close down all applications that could negatively impact a speed test result, such as Steam, Hulu, Netflix, or any torrents that you may have, or anything of the sort. You can find multiple upload and download speed testers out there by simply just Googling it, but I don't really trust many of them. Plus, we want to focus mainly on the upload speed. So I suggest going to testmy.net/upload. Once you're there, select manual test size. I suggest clicking 50 megabytes. Wait for the test to complete. It's going to upload 50 megabytes of random data to test your connection's upload speed. It may take a minute or two, but once you get the results, you'll need to convert the megabytes per second into kilobytes per second. 1 megabyte equals 1024 kilobytes. You could do the math, or you can go to google.com and type megabytes per second to kilobytes per second and use the converter that appears up top. Down below, there is a link to an OBS estimator. Let's head over there next. At obsapp.net/estimator, we'll get a rough estimation of the OBS settings that we should apply. It's going to ask what kind of CPU you have, what kind of graphics card you have, what kind of games do you plan on streaming, how fast your upload speed is, and this is why we just did that test and converted it to kilobytes per second. And lastly, what is your approximate screen size? After answering everything, hit recommend settings. Okay, back to OBS Studio. Make sure you clicked on the output icon and look at the streaming section. Let's fill in the recommended video bitrate. Remember, this is going to require some experimentation. Next, leave encoder at 264 and your audio bitrate around 128 to 160, depending on your upload speed. Leave enabled advanced encoder settings unchecked. For those planning to record using OBS Studio, under the recording settings, choose where you want your video saved. Choose the recording quality and the recording format. I recommend an MP4. You deserve a nice virtual high five. That was really the hard part and you did it. You may need to go back and adjust those settings later, but for now, you have a really nice foundation. Moving on to the audio section. Leave the sample rate at 44.1 kilohertz and leave the channels at stereo. Choose your desktop audio and your mic audio device. If you have multiple, or maybe you want multiple channels, you can do that here as well. Next, click on the video icon. Depending on your computer's resolution, your settings may look different than mine. Most computers today are a base canvas resolution of 1920 by 1080. However, you're going to want to downscale your resolution for your streams. So for the base canvas resolution, leave your computer's actual resolution there. Under output resolution, I suggest scaling it down to 1280 by 720. Leave downscale filter at bicubic sharpened scaling 16 samples. Also, depending on your CPU and the outcome of your estimation test, you might want to experiment a little with your frames per second. I leave mine at 30 frames per second for almost every game I do, but if you have a slower upload speed, you might want to drop it to 29.97 or 20 frames per second. The next section is the hotkeys section, and that can wait until later. Hotkeys are a way to perform actions on OBS Studio using a click of a button or two. Under the advanced section, I wouldn't really touch anything there, not yet anyway. Not until you know what you're doing and what you're dealing with in terms of streaming. So after you're done with everything, make sure you go to the bottom right hand corner, hit apply, and then OK. Okay guys, you did it! You set up and configured your OBS, but it's still blank. And that's kind of boring. So let's fix that. This is the fun part. First, let's talk about the difference between scenes and sources. Scenes are kind of like your canvas, and the sources would be kind of like your paint. I know that analogy might be a little confusing, but scenes are your canvas to add all sorts of different sources to make the scene come to life. Sources can be anything from audio, images such as overlays, game capture, monitor display, video capture devices such as your webcam, or if you have an Elgato. With OBS Studio, you can make a full-blown live production if you wanted. But let's start off with a basic setup. Under Scenes, let's create your first scene. Let's make an intro scene for the beginning of your stream so your viewers know that you'll be starting soon and they can get hyped. For those who do not have Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator and do not want to spend money, there are several awesome free programs out there that'll let you paint, illustrate, and edit photos. One of the best free programs out there is GIMP. GIMP is an open source free image editor. Link is in the description. With GIMP or other image editors, you can create some pretty awesome starting screens, overlays, thumbnails, and more. For this example, we're gonna do one where we didn't pre-make an intro image. We're going to make it all from scratch within OBS. However, if you end up making your own intro starting image, you'll know how to add it after this. First, let's rename that first scene into intro. Just simply right click on the scene, and click rename. Type intro and hit OK. Now let's click the plus sign under sources to add our first source. In this example, we're going to add a text source. So go to text GDI plus. Name your text source whatever you'd like, but I'm gonna name mine starting soon. In the text box, I'm gonna type starting soon. We can then manipulate this in lots of awesome ways. I'm gonna choose a different font, and then I'm going to change the color up a little bit. I'm also going to change the font size by simply clicking at the top of the size box and entering the font size 200. From there, we can also add gradient, outline, and lots more. You can add multiple text sources saying whatever you'd like to hype up your audience or to convey certain messages to your viewers. In this example, I'm going to make another text source to tell my viewers what I'm going to be streaming today. Alright, now let's add an image source. This black background is super boring and super dull. So I went on to Google and searched for pixel backgrounds. You can search for whatever you like and whatever's best for you and your stream, but I chose this one. Click the plus sign under the sources again and then click images. Name yours whatever you'd like, but I'm going to name mine intro background. After that, hit browse and search for the image that you just downloaded. After hitting OK, we can now resize and reposition the image in any way we'd like. We can click and drag on the corner of the images box and stretch it. And we can click anywhere within the images box to move it. The sources are treated kind of like layers in an editing program. Picture it like you're looking at the layers from the top down. You'll see the top layer first and the bottom layer last. So if your background image ends up on top, it'll cover up everything else. To move the source layers up and down, you can just simply click and drag the sources like this. Or while they are selected and highlighted, hit Control up or down with the arrow keys. Another tip I have is to go on Google and search for certain GIFs. It gives your scene some extra life. In this example, I Googled Yoshi GIF transparent. The reason I always search transparent at the end is so there's no background or anything in the back of the image. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to add another image source and I'm going to name it Dancing Yoshi. Lastly, let's add some music to hype up the viewers while they wait. There are several different royalty-free songs out there and music sources, but I suggest just going to your YouTube channel's Creator Studio. Once you're there at your channel's Creator Studio, click Create on the left side panel at the very bottom, then click Audio Library. Search and download a song from there. Back at OBS, let's click the plus sign to add another source. Click Media Source. Name it whatever you'd like, but I suggest Intro Song. That way you don't confuse it for something else later on. Check the loop box so it plays over and over again, and hit Browse to find your song that you just downloaded. Then click OK. In the mixer panel, right of the sources panel, make sure your song's volume is around -5 decibels, so it's not too loud for your viewers. You can also add other images or text or sounds or whatever. You could even add a webcam here if you wanted, but we'll be covering webcams in a second. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of how to create some scenes and sources. We definitely know how to create an intro scene though. The same applies to creating a break scene if you wanted to take a little break, or an outro scene for one last goodbye to your viewers until next time. But now let's add the actual stream scene, the main scene, where the audience will see your gameplay or monitor display, face cam, or whatever. This will end up being your main scene for your stream. Under scenes, click the plus sign to add a new scene. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna just name it Main Live, but you can name it whatever's best for you. Depending on what you're streaming and what equipment you have, each person's gonna be a little different, but I'll try to cover everything in a basic way. First, let's add an overlay. If you don't already have one, you can find some on Google for free, and you can also find some really cool templates there too. You can also design your own overlay using GIMP, Photoshop, or other image editors. You don't even have to have an overlay if you don't want to. However, for the sake of this tutorial, let's do it. You add it the same way you added other images in the intro scene. Under this scene, we're gonna hit the plus sign and click Images, name it, find it, and hit OK. Next, let's add a webcam or face cam, just in case you have one. Click the plus sign, then find Video Capture Device. Hopefully your webcam's already plugged in and set up, otherwise you won't be able to find it. If it is plugged in and set up, then you'll want to click the drop-down menu next to Device and find your webcam. Hit OK and then you're done. Just like any other source, you can resize, reposition, and manipulate your webcam anywhere on your screen. If you're using your webcam's mic, you can adjust the volume settings in the mixer panel next to the sources panel. If you want to stream consoles like the PS4, Xbox, Wii, or the Switch using an Elgato HD60 or another capture card, you would add it the same way you would add a webcam by using the Video Capture Device source and select the game capture card from the drop-down menu. If you are streaming a game on your PC, and I bet most of you are, then we're going to need to capture it. There are a few ways to do this, and not one way works for every game. The best way, in my opinion, is to click the plus sign to add a source, click Game Capture, under the Mode drop-down menu, select Capture Specific Window, and underneath that, click the desired game in the window drop-down menu. Another option is to add the window capture source. Add it like any other source. Select the desired window in the Windows drop-down menu and hit OK. Lastly, you could just simply do a display capture source. If you have multiple monitors like myself, you could choose the desired monitor from the menu and hit OK. All right, we've gone over almost everything you need to start your first streams. The only other question I get a lot is, how do you do sub alerts? Or how do you do a donation goal? It used to be a whole lot harder and a lot more complicated, especially for us YouTube streamers. However, thanks to websites like StreamLabs, it is super easy now and super free. Go to StreamLabs.com. Link your YouTube account or Twitch account. Set up your sub alerts, donation alerts, follow alerts, super chat alerts, etc. all on this website. When you're on the StreamLabs website, you'll see a widget URL at the top of the web page for the alerts, the donation goal, the chat box, and more. Click to reveal the URL and copy it. Head back to your OBS and click to add another source. Click Browser Source. Name it accordingly. If it is for your alerts, you're not going to want to name it Crayons, because that would just confuse you later. Where it says URL, paste the widget URL you just copied. Don't worry too much about adjusting the width and height. Keep your frames per second at 30 and leave CSS alone, and leave shutdown source when not visible unchecked. Position the browser source where you'd like it best, and voila, you have sub alerts. Okay guys, I know you all might still have questions. I did not go over everything. There is still so much more in OBS Studio, such as filters, downloadable sources, studio mode, and so much more. For example, BuddhaCat, how do you do green screen stuff? Well, with the green screen, balanced lighting, and the chroma key effect filter. So anyway, if you have questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments and I will do my absolute best to answer them. If I see a lot of the same question, maybe I'll even do a follow-up video. If you guys want me to go into further detail on OBS stuff, streaming, recording, editing, or even YouTube business in general, please let me know down below. I absolutely love helping you guys out, and I love helping out fellow YouTubers and streamers. So anything I can do to help, please let me know, and I will do my best to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please do me a favor and paw that like button for me, because you guys know it means the world to me anyway. And hey, while you're at it, if you haven't already, that is, be a part of the fun in the community by pawing that subscribe button and become an official Patriot. Until next time, I'm BuddhaCat, and I will see you all later. Goodbye, guys. Goodbye.